I think I was just overwhelmed by so many things. I was trying to like look at everything and then find out how to go faster. And then in the end, I probably needed to just shut up and drive and just try and go fast. And that probably would have worked a bit better. But it was, I think looking forward now, obviously it was something I'd learned before I stepped into single seaters. So when I saw it in single seaters, obviously now there's a few more squiggly lines to look at, but it was definitely a first introduction that I didn't have to get used to again once I got into single seaters.
Yeah, and then obviously you went into single seaters, I think not long after that, into, was it British F4? You did a bit in the UAE as well, didn't you? A few races.
Yeah, so I did like 2 or 3 weekends in UAE F4, and that was mainly just to try and gain a bit of racecraft and stuff like that before my first single seater race, because obviously it's a bit different to, being able to overtake everyone pretty much any corner you like on a karting track, whereas in cars, we all know it's much more difficult to overtake, and you got to plan everything much more. And even just getting used to having a bigger car around you and, something that you don't have side pods and plastic side pods and, you can't just shunt people off. If you run to the back of someone, either you're going over the top of them or you've broken your front wing and your race is over. So that was kind of just to prepare me for that. And then, went into British F4.
And you went in with Arden, didn't you? I think it was that TRS Arden team at the time. I always remember sort of sporadically watching that year. And I think, was it Jamie Caroline?
Yeah.
That you were racing for the title. I think it was down to the last weekend, was it not?
On points, yes, it went to the last weekend, but I think you could get 75 points in a weekend, and I think he was like 65 ahead or something going into the last weekend. So it was more or less a done deal. But yeah, if you were to say I took it to the last weekend, then I'll take that.
It must have been cool though, because one thing I actually quite miss about racing mostly in Europe, or pretty much all in Europe outside of Silverstone in the UK, I miss racing at Alton Park and Brands Hatch and even Snet. I mean, it's pan flat, but I actually miss it in a weird way. How was that experience for you, like especially likes of Alton and Brands Hatch?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, I hadn't really raced, like, because of my first year in single seaters, I didn't really know any different. Yeah. So for me, they were kind of just, this is what single seater racing is like and what car tracks are like. Obviously, now looking ahead to where I've gone and, racing at places like Spa and Monza and stuff, and then looking back at when I raced at Alton Park and Knock Hill and stuff, you go, okay, yeah, they're pretty different worlds apart, but they were definitely pretty cool tracks. And like, I think the biggest thing that everyone would say about them is they bit pretty hard when you got it wrong. A lot of the tracks nowadays, you've got a fair bit of runoff to make your mistakes and live to see another day. But, you drop a wheel off at Knock Hill or Alton Park or wherever, and that you've dropped a wheel, that's for sure. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And like Knock Hill definitely is one that sticks in my mind, the undulation, even just the simple things like going on the road trip to Scotland and stuff like that. It sticks in your head, and flying over the chicane and stuff like that. There's no sort of tracks we race on now that have the same kind of character, I would say. Obviously, Spa's got a lot of character to it, and even Silverstone's an awesome track, but you don't have a 50-second lap where you're flying over chicanes and stuff like that.
It's like you say, it's almost the danger element, fear element in a way, isn't it? That if you make a mistake, that's it, you're done. There's no track limits issues in these kind of places.
Okay.
I mean, that's
what I call really proper racing. Racing, that's what I love.
I mean, I don't understand why, like, the likes of the FIA and these championships. I mean, if you take Spa, for example, last year, I mean, Spa, you could always run wide a little bit in some corners, like in No Name or even a bit in Pruon, let's say. But they started putting all these just concrete runoffs down there. And it ruins it. I can't stand it. I wish almost one day I could take a Formula 3 car around Alton Park just for fun.
Yeah,
definitely. but yeah, I mean, pretty much after that, you went straight into European racing again. I think into Euro Cup, I guess. You did 1 or 2 years in that, didn't you? You did 2, I'm pretty sure.
2, yeah.
Yeah, and your first one, I guess, was going straight in with Arden.
Yeah.
How was that first year, sort of experiencing, like you said, we just touched on it a little bit, but these European tracks, a bit more, probably a bit wider, a bit more open. I mean, they're cool in many ways, but obviously they're a bit different. So how did you find that?
It was another transition for sure. Racing at a lot of the tracks was very cool, and especially because it was the first time I'd been there. Like, when you rock up to Monza for the first time, or Spa, or Silverstone GP, or wherever it is, and you've been watching these tracks on TV for the last 5 or 10 years, or however, and then you go, yeah, I'm driving on them now. It's an awesome feeling. And then, unfortunately, half of me go, okay, this is a cool track to drive, but I don't know where I'm going to overtake anyone. Or, this would be cool if there was still gravel there, or whatever, like you said. And that sort of fear factor was there. But, even Silverstone now with the runoff, it's still an awesome track. And I think it's definitely one of the drivers' favorites. Spa, like you said, it's a bit of a shame with the concrete runoffs now, and I still remember our drivers briefing very well from F3 about the track limits controversies. But driving on those tracks for the first time was pretty cool as well, I would say.
I love those drivers brief. Well, I don't. I'm being sarcastic, but those the ones where they say, you can go wide, but don't gain an advantage, and you're like, well, so I'm allowed to go wide, or am I not? Basically,
like telling a 6-year-old kid like giving them an ice cream and telling them not to eat it. It's not going to happen.
It's like you can go wide. We're not necessarily going to delete your lap. It's only if we deem you gain an advantage. Well, like that's just saying to, like you say, to a racing driver, I'm going to try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? But then obviously the next year you switch team, I think, to our race, which is probably, I imagine, the first time you properly experienced a different culture within a race team. Obviously being French, and you come over from obviously Australia, and like you said earlier, it's a bit in a sort of way that's similar to Australia, the UK, and then you go over the UK team all the time through karting and into your first year in Euro Cup, and then you switch to a French team. I mean, I've experienced it myself, the difference. How did you find it?
Well, it went pretty well. Like, we won the championship, so I can't say too many bad things, but it was a bit of a shock again in terms of the culture. It wasn't bad at all. I think quite a few French teams sort of get a bit of or just teams in general, it seems to be mainly French teams, get a bit of a bad rep sometimes. But I had nothing bad to say about our race. I loved the year. Obviously, it helps that we won the championship, but they were super professional. And I think some people, when they see a French team, sort of, I don't know, think they're a bit snobby, or here's the car and drive it kind of mentality, and it's down to you, and we're not going to change the car. But from my experience, it was nothing like that. We were in a brand new car for that year, so we were testing a lot of things and stuff like that. It wasn't, here's the car, drive it, and if you're slow, then it's your fault. Like that definitely wasn't the case. So I really liked that year, and I still stay in touch with Thibaut and Cyril. So Thibaut was the team manager and Cyril was my engineer. So I still stay in touch with them. I actually saw them at Imola last weekend or the week before at the Formula Regional race. So I loved that year, and the sort of French culture was nice. I'd heard a few bad things, but from my experience, like I said, it was all positive.
I mean, I even had 2 weekends in 2014 with it was ART junior team then, but obviously it was our race, so with Thibaut and Cyril. I really enjoyed it, but I wonder whether, because I had such a bad year for the first 4 or 5 races, that I switched team, or it was like anything was going to feel good. But no, I mean, I did really enjoy working with those guys. I've always found that French teams are quite analytical, quite data driven, number driven. And if you get on with that, and you could be very, let's say, understanding and respectful that it's actually going to help you, if you dive into it, then I don't think there's a big issue. But like you say, there is sometimes cases, I've even had it myself, where they don't necessarily want to change the car to suit, not necessarily to suit you, because if you're going to be good racing driver, you need to be able to adapt. But naturally, we all prefer one type of balance, let's say. But yeah, I mean, if it suits you, and they clearly did in that year, you had a great year. And that, I guess, because that was the Formula Renault Euro Cup, that was the reason why you got signed into the Renault Junior Academy.
Yeah. So that was the prize for winning the championship, and